Moving on to other stories now, this has been quite the summer for Korea. The mercury spiking to record levels is nothing new now. Other than being the hottest on record, it's also been one of the driest. The hardest hit are farmers and consumers as the conditions damage crops and hike the prices for agricultural goods. Han Soo-ah has the full story.
Rainfall this month was the lowest recorded in 46 years. According to the Korea Meteorological Administration, the average cumulative precipitation in the country between July 12th and August 11th was just 32.9 millimeters, 10% of the average rainfall for this period. Jeju Island saw the least rainfall with just 4.8 millimeters. Seoul received 12.2 millimeters, which is just 3% of the average rainfall for this period. Gangwon-do province saw the most rainfall with 266 millimeters. The heat waves and drought have brought serious damage to the local farming industry. According to the Ministry of Agriculture, the heat wave this year killed more than 5 million livestock, a 35% increase on last summer. More than 2,000 hectares of crops, or 3,000 soccer fields of crops, were also damaged by the heat. The damage has pushed up the prices of agricultural goods. Data from the Korea Consumer Agency shows vegetable prices have jumped more than 50% compared to the last month. The price of major marine products has also surged more than 30% from last year. Last week, to help mitigate the impact of the heat wave, Prime Minister Lee Na-kyun instructed government ministries and public organizations to stop work at public construction sites during the daytime, or delay the work for several days to avoid heat-related problems. Also, agricultural insurance programs supported by the government are working to provide compensation for crop damage. And there's not a lot of rain in the forecast for the time being, as Typhoon Yagi, which was expected to bring rain to the Korean peninsula, has shifted course towards Shanghai.
A mother orca whose calf died after birth is still carrying her baby 17 days later. Researchers say that they're now concerned for the mother's health. Jeff Corwin is a wildlife biologist, and he joins me now via Skype from Marshfield, Massachusetts. Thanks a lot for joining us, Jeff. I know you're not supposed to apply sort of human characteristics to animals, but watching this mother orca, to me, express a very human emotion, this sort of outpouring of grief. You understand where she's coming from, even though she's not a human. Some are calling it a tour of grief. Can you talk about what this is?
Absolutely. And I don't believe that it's anthropomorphic. Anthropomorphism is when you apply human-like emotions or characteristics to non-human life forms, to animals. I don't think it's being anthropomorphic to feel this sense of empathy as this mother mourns her offspring. The bond between a mother and its baby is one of the most innate, visceral, organic relationships in all of nature. And as species like whales, which are more behaviorally complex, very intelligent, it would be very logical for us to see a mirror here. And this is a mother that has lost her baby, and she is going through the intense mourning process. And I have seen this before amongst dolphins and other cetaceans or whale species. What we're actually seeing, Ian, is when a baby is born after nearly up to a potentially 18-month-long pregnancy, mom and the other females and nurses within her pod will instinctively try to drive that baby to the surface to take a breath. She literally is pushing her baby to connect with it and hope against hope, hoping that it will take a breath, which it will never do.
So it's been 17 days. You said you've seen this before. Have you seen it for 17 days?
Well, I don't know exactly the length of this mourning period this attempt to save an offspring from a previous observation took, but I will tell you, I was covering the Gulf oil spill for CBS, and we observed a female dolphin trying to get her baby up to take a breath, and that baby was literally, that calf was dissolving from being broken down and decaying. So I can imagine this could take a very, very long time. Mother cetaceans invest so much. The pod family invests so much into their offspring. And I mean, she will nurse her baby for up to 2 years.
Wow. You know, you mentioned the pod. For a period of time there, it seemed like the mother was kind of lagging behind the pod. Then it seemed like the pod was trying to stay nearby. Now the pod may be pulling away a little bit. What does that mean for the mother?
Well, these are very cunning, very intelligent, very social creatures. The orcas, or killer whales as they're called, are often referred to as the wolves of the sea. They use a balancing act of skilled behaviors to hunting and to dispatch their prey. They'll often move in to take out a sea lion or sail. They'll even eat whales as big as a humpback, and they do that by hunting in a pack and strategically lining themselves up for their way to survive as a team. So they survive as a team. She needs her pod. This is a pod with perhaps generations of her family that she has known throughout her entire life. And oftentimes there is competitiveness or territoriality between one pod and other pods. For example, we have rogue pods or derelict pods, and we have residential pods. She needs her family.
So I know experts are trying to assess the situation and trying to figure out if there's a way to intervene. Is there anything that we can do to help her?
Well, I think it would actually be very stressful for us to intervene. She's gone through enough. She probably is medically or physically healthy to survive. I don't think her pod will totally abandon her. I think we need to let nature take its course. Nature is doing what nature does, and it's hard for us to watch sometimes, but this is a part of life. I think if there's something, Anne, that we can all do, and we really care about this situation, we need to protect our oceans, ensure species like this have healthy ecosystems to survive in, and ensure that we have a government that's stepping up to protect our children's resources and the legacy of nature that we all depend upon. Orca, killer whales, and ourselves.
You know, I guess just like with humans, grief has to take its course, the several stages that you need to go through. Jeff Corwin, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Take a look. Pictures posted online show chunks of the bridge missing and blocking the road below. At least 10 cars are involved, and so far, no word of any injuries. Dramatic video showing a vehicle stopped right at the edge of the bridge. That is a truck. Officials believe the collapse was caused by structural weakness. We will keep you updated.
There was a horrifying attack today in Yemen, a Middle Eastern country that's been torn apart by a 3-year-old civil war. An airstrike in the north reportedly killed at least 50, more than half of them children. Holly Williams has covered Yemen extensively. We do issue a warning tonight. Some of the images in her report now are graphic.
The world has forgotten Yemen's bloody war. But look at these children, their tiny bodies, some still struggling for life. And you won't be able to forget them. The children were reportedly on a field trip when their bus was hit by an airstrike. And these videos, which we can't independently verify, appear to show its aftermath. The strike was carried out by the Saudi Arabian-led coalition, which is backed in this war by the US. Saudi Arabia says this was a legitimate military operation, targeting Yemeni rebels backed by Iran, its arch-enemy. We saw the war in Yemen firsthand in February. These Saudi-backed soldiers are fighting against rebels for control of the country's barren hills. There's been brutality on both sides. More than 10,000 people have been killed in 3 years of war, according to the UN. But a Saudi Arabian blockade has contributed to starvation and disease. And a UN report found the Saudi-led bombing campaign, carried out with US support, has hit schools and weddings. And today, a bus full of children. A State Department spokeswoman today expressed concern over the airstrike and called on the Saudi-led coalition to investigate.
Some people are seeing their homes flooded for the third time in a month. More than 20 million face flood threats this evening. Heavy rain has already triggered flash flood warnings in parts of New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Maryland. Rescue crews today answered several calls for help, including this one to save a 12-year-old boy outside Philadelphia. In Benton, Pennsylvania, people went to high ground after a swollen creek spilled its banks and ripped through town. Don Daler is about 60 miles south of there.
Residents of Pennsylvania were taken by surprise by how fast the water rose today, flooding homes, floating cars, and buckling roads. This dramatic rescue was caught on tape. A 12-year-old trapped on a pile of branches in this stream in Charleston Township, Pennsylvania, about 30 miles west of Philadelphia. In central Pennsylvania, rescue crews fielded calls for help by boat.
We made our way out here with our boats because they had some areas they couldn't access anymore with their heavy brush trucks.
Oh my God! Parts of New Jersey saw extreme flooding over the weekend. These cars floated away from a dealership that sits near a river in Little Falls, about 20 miles west of New York City. And just east of Little Falls, police had to rescue a bride from a car top in Bogota when she and the groom were stranded on their wedding day. Back in Pennsylvania, the governor says emergency management agencies are working to ensure residents are safely evacuated and get help. But some people are losing patience.
Governor Wolf was here. I hope they sees that now we need help.
Earlier today, Mill Creek here at Port Carbon, Pennsylvania, actually reached the first floor of that house. And the very real fear is now, with more rain in the forecast, the worst might not be over.
La rodilla y los nervios están ahí paralizando. Mi niño tiene cantidad de plomo en sangre, del arsénico y de cadmio y de mercurio y de todos los minerales que están en la sangre. El polvo ingresa a nuestra casa por las ventanas, puede ser en el agua, en la fruta, en los utensilios. Entonces eso nosotros estamos consumiendo porque todo este pasco está contaminado a través de la minería.
Esto le ha pasado de la noche a la mañana con el sangrado de la nariz. Nosotros como padres hemos previsto que yo pensaba que era por una gripe o por dolor de cabeza. Fuimos a la farmacia, compramos una pastilla y le damos eso. Al día siguiente, en la mañana, a la 1 de la tarde, empezó también con el mismo sangrado, pero el sangrado de la misma nariz empezó sin parar.
Como madre me siento indignada que mi niño ya se encuentra prácticamente enfermo, ya no es un niño sano por culpa de la minería, por culpa de las grandes empresas que aquí en Pasco existen y se llevaron los buenos beneficios, pero mientras a nosotros, a los niños, se perjudicaron por la salud por la contaminación de plomo en sangre.
Little children, it is the last time. And as ye have heard that an Antichrist shall come, even now are there many Antichrists, whereby we know that it is the last time.